Okay, y'all. Who dat? I guess. Saints fall to the Chargers 27-13. Rough day for the New Orleans Saints. Game mired by injuries, poor play on both sides of the ball. Give you some takeaways here, and feel free to share yours. So always drop your comments. We appreciate you for being in there. Smash the like button, subscribe to the channel. We appreciate you for hanging out. I guess my first reaction is I'm not going to overreact to a result of a preseason game, nor should you, nor should any of us ever. The preseason is just. It's just what it is. I mean, at the end of the game, you got Kellen Moore kicking a field goal, and it was really, which was the right decision, by the way. It's just trying to get Charlie Smith work. I mean, it's just the whole objective of the preseason. Sort of famously or infamously, the Sean Payton's first team back in 2006, they were horrendous in the preseason. They lost 30-7 to Dallas. They lost 27-14 to Indy, and they lost 10-9 at Kansas City. I mean, they were awful. That team in 06, of course, went to the NFC Championship game. So again, not gonna overreact to the result of the game. Like, that's just the result of this game is inconsequential. You know, what you want to see in preseason, obviously, are what guys that are maybe going to be counted on to be starters, maybe take a step. Guys that you're seeing trying to earn a roster spot. Here's the really, really tricky part to try to assess what we just saw from the Saints. So many of the guys we just saw for the Saints are guys that they are going to be counting on Sundays. Like, we could always go watch preseason games in the Breeze era and go, well, it doesn't matter what Chase Daniel does. Like, Drew Brees is going to play when the regular season starts, and it's a completely different team. Rattler and Haener and Shuck, whatever order, Rattler, Shuck, Haener, those are your guys, you know. And then while you didn't have your full first team offensive line out there, you were starting Kelvin Banks at left tackle and Trevor Penning at left guard. And then Clapp was starting at center. Clapp was injured, was carted off. Trevor Penning was injured, walked to the sideline, and then was carted off from the sideline. Disappointing for Will Clapp if it's serious, and we'll wait and see what they say after the game. But he's a guy that I certainly think was a virtual shoo-in to make this team if he's healthy because of his versatility, right? His experience playing for Kellen Moore in LA for a couple of seasons, his ability to play center guard. Clapp being injured really stinks. Hope it's not serious. And then the same for Penning, who's a former first-round pick in your left tackle. The thing we've talked about with this New Orleans Saints team is that offensive line has to be good because you've invested so much in your offensive line. As far as draft capital, you've invested 4 first-round picks in Banks and Fuaga and Penning and Ruiz, and McCoy was a second-rounder, but still the highest drafted guy in that class when you didn't have a first-round pick. So you've got so much invested, you need them to be good, and to lose both Clapp and Penning stinks. Bub Means was also carted off. He had an atrocious drop on the sideline. It would have been called back. The play was negated for penalty, but still, it was a play that was the end of the first half. So I think it was. I'd have to go check the play-by-play to see if that was Shuck or Rattler. I don't have my notes in front of me, but it was. Let's see. No, that had to be Rattler earlier. Anyway, I don't know that either quarterback was particularly good, any of the three. Rattler was 7 for 11 for 53 yards. Chuck had the more extensive playing time, 15 of 22 for 165. He did have the big 54-yard touchdown to Mason Tipton. I will say that was a nice bounce back for Tyler Shuck after throwing the interception, hideous interception, to then come back after throwing the pick six and come back and lead a touchdown drive, 5 plays, 82 yards, where he hit Mason Tipton. I am not. I'm not buying the Mason Tipton hype for anything. You know, it's the same thing a year ago. I feel like we've done this. We've played this game before with Mason Tipton. If that's a guy you're counting on Sundays, that's a problem. You didn't have Kamara or Olave or Shaheed going today, or Juwan Johnson. So, you know, you are expecting some of your better offensive weapons to be there. And, you know, maybe that does help amplify your offense. It should help amplify your offense, obviously. But you know, having your best skill guys definitely are gonna goes without saying, make your offense better. But I just don't know that it matters if you don't have the right trigger man. And I don't know that if we've seen anything from those guys. Obviously, the interception Shuck threw was awful. The interception Haener threw was awful. Haener had another awful incompletion on the sideline. He went 5 of 8 for 41 yards. I'll try to get to something positive in a second. Really disappointing that after the Chargers muff the punt and you take over at their 4-yard line, you go backwards. I mean, you got 1st and 10 at their 4. Kendre Miller loses 3 yards. Rattler scrambles for a yard. Then Rattler gets sacked. Is there a penalty there? Anyway, it looked like Kendre Miller was going to score. It looked like no, that's it. Sorry, I went backwards. I was like, why is this going backwards? You started there 17. I'm like, why? This is going backwards. You started there 17, and Kendre Miller ran for 8 yards. You get down to the 9. Miller ran again for 4 yards. It's 1st and goal at the 5, and then you go backwards. Velus Jones loses a yard. Rattler gets sacked. Then Rattler scrambled. It looked like Rattler might have a seam, and then it collapsed on him. They go for it on 4th and goal at the 1, and they hand it to Kendre Miller, and he loses 3 yards. So the fact that you went for it on 4th and goal at the 1 and couldn't get a yard, you couldn't score when you took over at their 17 was disappointing. I will say that I thought defensively, especially in the first half, I thought the defensive energy was pretty good. I mean, until they got the touchdown, until they had the 14-play touchdown drive to make it 9-0. I thought your defense had played pretty well at that point. And I'll tell you a couple of guys who did stand out for me defensively today. I'm looking at box score here. I thought Danny Stutzman, it felt like he was all over the place. I like him a lot. And, they didn't practice him later in the week because it was pretty intentional. He was going to play a lot in this game. Stutzman ended up with 3 tackles in the ball game. The other guy was Isaiah Stallbird, who had some big impact plays, just physical plays. He had a TFL, had 8 tackles in the game. Jalen Ford also had 8 tackles. Fadil Diggs had 4. The other guy, I'll tell you, aside from Stallbird, that I thought played really well was Chris Rumph. And Chris Rumph may end up being a guy that wins a roster spot as a defensive end over Isaiah Foskey. Not sure if you noticed, but Foskey played almost the whole game, and they are trying to get him out there to see if he can earn a roster spot. Like, he's got to play well enough to earn a roster spot, and because he's not just going to be gifted one. And Rumph, who wears 98, I mean, Rumph, there was even a play where, like, the balls, the ball carriers, he's like jumping on top of the pile. And I mean, he just was very active. So I liked Rumph a lot today. I thought he was good. Offensively, there just wasn't a lot to see or a lot to say. I mean, you put up 13 points. You hit one big play with Mason Tipton. I don't think any of the running backs are pretty good. I thought Kendre Miller on the kickoff return he had. Miller had a 36-yard kickoff return. Velus Jones had a 46-yard kickoff return right there at the end of the game. Groupie made his field goal from 31. Charlie Smith at the end made the field goal from 50, which was good to see. Each guy, Kroger and Burnip, punted 3 times. Kroger averaged 46.3. Burnip averaged 33.7. But 2 of those were inside the 20. So anyway, let's see what y'all got. Fire away. Please smash the like button if you would. Subscribe to the channel. Tank for Nuss. That was interesting. Cartel Bo. I don't think any of these guys were in any position to try to cement the job after one preseason game, no matter what. Are we on the clock? I'm confused. Confused by what? Not the worst thing I've ever seen. No. But I look at preseason games and go, what do you want to see improvement on? What did you like? I mean, like the deep ball that they hit at the end right before Rocket Sanders scored on the the stretch play to the right. The deep ball, it was 35 and 37 who were in coverage. And it was Dallas Beanham, and 35 is Elliott Davison. So, I think you look at some of that and you go, okay, well, their guys that are going to get cut are better than your guys that are going to get cut. Leon, game showed you nothing with your top skill players out. Rattler didn't look bad. Shuck looked okay. Dale bet the Saints 5.5. Did you bet under or over 5.5? Get used to these types of performances. Not a shocker. They are who we thought they are. Foskey experiment is over. We agree on that. I could tell you that I thought Kendre looked good early in the game. I thought he ran hard. The kickoff return was nice, and he finished with 6 rushes for 15 yards. The goal line situation, it was the disappointing one. Let's see. I see Promise. Not a bad game considering not all the starters started or played. Also remember, this was the second preseason game that the Chargers played. But not getting points when they muffed the punt inside the 20 was a real disappointment. Hey, Ryan, we'll be good. I give their edge to Rattler to start the season. Hats off to Shuck for the great TD drive. The TD drive by Shuck was great. It was a great response after the interception. The pick 6 was atrocious, though. Let's see. Shuck was pretty good outside of the interception. That's like saying, aside from that, how was the play, Mrs. Lincoln? I mean, the pick 6 was atrocious. Those are the types of things that get you beat in the NFL. Alec, hate to say it. It'll be a rough year. Hopefully I'm wrong. No, it's going to be a rough year. And I'm going to tell you all, like, if y'all have gotten used to watching my post-game reaction shows over the years, you've seen a lot of red-faced rants and angry cursing. You're probably not going to see much of that from me this year, just because my expectation is so low. It's something I've told y'all. Like, this is about as low an expectation I've had for a Saints team for as long as I can remember. And so when you go into the season with this as the expectation, you recalibrate. And it's not, the expectation isn't try to go win the division, make the playoffs. It's, let's see if some of these young guys can play well. Like Kelvin Banks, I thought played well at left tackle. Dylan Radins, I thought had an atrocious game. He gave up the strip sack. He had a formation penalty. Forgot it's a former second-round pick and a young veteran in the NFL. I have a formation penalty in a preseason game is atrocious. Like, what are you doing, man? Get your ass in the line of scrimmage. Let's see. Very optimistic about the Saints this year. Maybe the best team in Louisiana. I want to beat the Falcons twice. That'd be great. KC, we suck again. It's preseason. I like what I saw for the beginning of a new year, new era. So tell me what you did like. I'm not sure that. I mean, I went through the very quick list of what I liked. I think the most important thing coming out of this game is Trevor Penning, Will Clapp. What's their health situation? I mean, that's a starter that left with injury. Because if Penning isn't available, now you have a shuffle on your offensive line. And Clapp, who's a guy that's, a rotational guy that can play center, either guard spot, was likely going to make this team. He's hurt. And so now you look and go, okay, well, if Penning is hurt, who is it? Is it Shane Lemieux, who played a lot for you a year ago and you just re-signed? Do you put Dylan Radins in at left guard, who was your free agent acquisition, who really struggled at right tackle today? And those are the types of, that's going to be, I think, the most significant thing to come out of this is whenever Kellen Moore talks to the media and whenever we find out, what's the injury situation with those guys. Hey, Abner, thanks for being there. Jerry, glad football is back. Let's see. Offense D, defense C-, special teams B-. I might go a little better on the special teams. I thought both punters did well. You made both field goals. Your return game was pretty good. Both Velus Jones and Kendra Miller had long returns. And you recovered a muff punt. So I thought special teams was actually pretty encouraging in this ball. I thought they all did really well. Special teams. Going to be a rough season. Yeah. Well, the second part of this, that's what I've been saying for weeks now. I've been saying that on AFR for weeks, and a lot of people don't like to hear me say it, but that has been my point. It's you have to adjust your expectations for this season and understand you don't have a single quarterback that's won a start in an NFL game. You have a first-year head coach. You're going to have a rookie left tackle and a second-year right tackle. Your 3 offensive linemen are going to be playing new positions this year. You have an aging running back in Alvin Kamara. Your top 2 receivers are both coming off of injury. You've got an aging Cam Jordan, an aging Demario Davis. Tyrann Mathieu just retired. You don't have a certain number 2 cornerback opposite Kool-Aid McKinstry, and I'm not sure Kool-Aid McKinstry is a lockdown number 1 corner. Just understand what this season's going to be and go into it hoping to see some of these young guys establish themselves as good NFL starters that can be a foundation for the future. Hey, over 300 watching. Appreciate y'all. Please smash that like button if you would. Appreciate y'all for being there. If a player's injured in the preseason, misses the regular season, does that count as a year of service for his retirement? That's a good question, Lance, and I don't know the answer to that. I think as long as they're on the roster, it does count as a year of service. And what they would do is they would place them on IR. And so they would still be on the roster. They would just be on injured reserve. So they would collect it. They would still be paid and collect the check. So, this is why, this is a funny conversation to have now for a lot of people. But, near the end, it's funny to think about now, and some will deny it, but near the end with Breeze, man, I would say the last 5 years of his career, there were a lot of people wanting to move on from Breeze, wanting him to retire, wanting to draft a quarterback, move on, get younger. And the point I made over and over again was, man, it took you as an organization 40 years to find a franchise quarterback. You ride that thing until the wheels fall off because there is no guarantee that you'll find another one. And here you are now 5 years post Drew Brees, still looking. But you got some young guys with some promise. So let's see how they keep, if they keep improving here. 2 more preseason games to go. Let's see. Yeah, Joseph, I don't know that's the wrong sentiment, but I will say this, Joseph. I'm going to be consistent and say the same thing today that I said when Rattler played that handful of games last year. I'm not judging him on last year because we didn't get to see Spencer Rattler play behind an NFL offensive line or with starting NFL skill players with him. And that's not opinion, that is objective fact. The offensive line was a mash unit. and he didn't have Olave or Shaheed or Foster Moore. Well, Foster Moore got hurt at the end of the year, or Taysom Hill got hurt. Like, it's hard to roll out there with a preseason offense in regular season games and judge a rookie quarterback based on that. So I'm not going to. I want to see what that may look like. What it looks like week one with your starting offense out there. Let's see. Kevin, we have a viable quarterback on the team. You might be right. I don't think there's anyone that's going to win you anything significantly this year. Left-handed Drew Brees greater than the Saints quarterback room. What the Saints do before the season starts about signing a quarterback. Yeah, H-Town Creole, I don't think they're going to add a veteran quarterback. And I will say that that's the one thing that has surprised me is that they didn't. And we talked about it all throughout the offseason about what veteran free agents were out there. I mean, Aaron Rodgers was out there, but that never really made sense because if Rodgers played, he was going to go somewhere where he could try to win. That wasn't going to happen here. But we talked about Teddy Bridgewater being a guy like, why? And even if you play the young guys, I'd still like to have a veteran who's played a ton that can maybe be a veteran resource to your younger guys. What does Atlanta do with Kirk Cousins? Do they try to move him? Nobody's going to trade for Kirk Cousins because nobody's going to give Atlanta an asset to take on that contract. But if Atlanta cuts Kirk Cousins and he becomes available, your New Orleans, do you try to sign him? Yeah. I mean, if that's the case, and that changes the outlook. I mean, you go from being maybe a 4-5 win team to maybe a 7-8 win team, and in a bad NFC South, maybe you could push to win the division as an 8 or 9 win team. But I don't think that's going to happen. Let's see. Liz, I'm not tripping unless I see deficiency. It's the preseason. I'm with you. And this is the other part that Liz said, we're going to be better than when Dennis was the coach. I think this year is a 2 steps back to be able to take 10 steps forward. Organizationally, they just had to be willing to take 2 steps back, which they haven't been. But when Derek Carr retired, it really forced their hand. But I'm excited that they went and drafted 9 players. I'm excited to see if Vernon Broughton can be a rotational player in your defensive line. I'm excited to see if Kelvin Banks can be your franchise left tackle. I'm excited to see if Quincy Riley can be a starting corner for you. I'm excited to see if Danny Stutzman can be a rotational guy this year and ultimately replace DeMario Davis. Can Devin Neal, when he gets healthy, make this team and be a consistent NFL player? Those are exciting things about the future of your organization. It's like when you go back, I know we talk about it often, but like the 2006 and the 2017 drafts, you look at the the all-time draftees for the New Orleans Saints, and you can look at 06 and you could go, okay, Reggie Bush, Roman Harper, Jari Evans, Rob Ninkovich, which was one of the big disappointments because they let him go and he ended up being a great NFL player. I played 11 seasons. Mike Haas never amounted to anything, Josh Lay, but Zach Strief was a 7th rounder and Marcus Colston was a 7th rounder. I mean, you built Reggie, Roman, Jari, Strief, Colston. You got 5 consistent starters from that 2006 draft. If you go to the 2017 Saints draft, it's the same thing where you got Lattimore and Ryan Ramczyk and Marcus Williams and Alvin Kamara and Trey Hendrickson. That was a draft where you set the foundation for that run and from 17 to 20, that 5-year run. So the hope is this year, this draft, if you hit on all these guys, can be the foundation for a 5-year run before you have to start deciding which guys you're going to pay. Look at this guy. And Matt, tell us again how everything was Derek Carr's fault. Look forward to another long, sucky season. Yeah, L. Ray, David, or whatever. Clearly, you don't listen. I never said everything was Derek Carr's fault. What I said about Derek Carr over and over and over and over again. And by the way, the great thing about the digital era is everything's recorded, so you can go see this. But you're too lazy. You'd rather believe whatever you want to believe. The thing I said about Derek Carr from the day they signed him is he's a lower middle tier, upper bottom tier quarterback in the NFL. As long as he's your quarterback, you win games, you win nothing of significance. So if you're content being a 7, 8, 9 win team every year with Derek Carr and not competing for anything, great. Go be that. I'm not content with that. Derek Carr was never going to be anything better than that because we had a decade-long sample of him in the NFL to know exactly what he was. And it was that. And I'm not okay with that. I'm okay firing Dennis Allen, getting rid of Derek Carr, drafting 9 players, seeing if you have anything with these young quarterbacks. And if you don't, you're going to suck, maybe be a 2-3 win team, and you'll be in the top 5 of the draft next year, and you'll have an opportunity to pick, hopefully, a really good quarterback next year. And maybe that becomes your franchise. I would rather, I'm okay taking the 2, 3, 4 steps back in order to have the opportunity to take 10 steps forward and be a contender, which was never going to happen with Dennis Allen and Derek Carr. You were going to be, by the way, they won 5 games a year ago. That's what you were going to be forever. You were going to be a perpetual also ran. And I'm not good with that. All right. Let's see. Who's in charge of team drafting at this point? A monkey who is flings his own feces around, clearly. I don't know that we know that yet. I want to see what this draft class looks like. I don't think we've seen anything to determine what this draft class will look like. Like when the Saints line up against Arizona on September 7th, game 1, September 7th, right? September 7th, I have the date right? September 7th, yeah. Like, and you've got Eric McCoy at center, and if Penning's healthy, Penning and Ruiz at guard, and then you've got Fuaga and Banks at tackle, and Rattler's playing, and he's handing the ball off to Alvin Kamara and Kendre Miller, and you've got Olave, Shaheed, Juwan Johnson. That's a dramatically different look than what you saw out there today. I'm not saying that that's going to win you anything of significance, but that's dramatically different than Dylan Radins at right tackle, and then Will Clapp at center and getting hurt, and then you have I don't even know how to pronounce the guy's name that went in, the rookie from South Carolina. You know what I mean? And then a rotation of Kendre Miller, Cam Akers, Clyde Edwards-Helaire at running back, and whatever they were throwing, Cedric Wilson and Mason Tipton and whoever else. I mean, who are the guys at tight end, 85 and 88? You see my point? Like, it's just objectively, I mean, Michael Jacobson was that Jack Stoll. You know what I mean? Like, objectively, your quarterback will have more chance of success in a regular season game with starters around them, as opposed to a bunch of dudes that are probably going to get cut. So preseason for me is more about identifying the last 5 people that are going to earn roster spots and getting good experience to your young players. See, this is tough. Do you trade off anyone you possibly can to acquire draft capital? So here's the problem. Who are you going to trade? I'll wait. Who are you going to trade? I mean, you don't have tradable assets. I mean, you could probably trade Taliesin Fuanga because he's on a rookie deal. But do you want to do that? I mean, you have a starting right tackle. You have a starter on a rookie contract. That's an affordable player. You keep that player. Like who else? I mean, who do you trade? Who are you trading? You don't have any tradable assets. You did this whole thing last year, and you had one. It was Lattimore, and you traded him, and you got a 2 for it. Anyway, see this one. Where is it? I'm looking for it. Just rolled past, but someone said I'm not impressed with the offensive line at all. Well, like you realize the guy playing center for you today, after Will Clapp got hurt. Yeah, I'm not here sunshine pumping. Y'all know that. Like I've told you, I think this is a 4 or 5 win team. I think the ceiling for this team is 7. I think best case scenario, everything breaks their way. They get to 7. Best case. Torricelli Simpkins was your center today. Dylan Radins was your right tackle. You know what I mean? Like Penning got hurt, and then Hergel went in there at guard. You know what I mean? Like let's be honest about Jonathan Mendoza was in there. Like, let's be honest about what you're seeing. Like, of course you weren't impressed with the offensive line, but none of those guys were going to make the team, you know? Which is why I'll continue to say, take the result with a grain of salt. You want to see the quarterbacks throw accurately. You want to see the receivers catch the ball when they're open. You want to see the running backs run hard. You want to see the defensive players make sure tackles. You want to see the defensive backs in good coverage. You want to see your kickers make their kicks. You know, you want to see functional things like that. So, what does this mean? Matt, that's a settler's mentality. Refuse to ride that train with you unless it happens. It's like we said. What do you mean? Like for the whole season? Well, that's fine. I mean, listen, you can go into this season believing that this is going to be a contending team, and you're going to be massively disappointed. Like, it's just the reality. You realize what you're doing. It's like if you get yourself into a whole bunch of debt and make a lot of bad financial and life choices. And so you say, you know what we're going to do? We're going to sell the house. We're going to move into an apartment that we're going to rent. We're not eating out anymore. And we're just going to save money and get ourselves in a much better financial situation. So that way we can get back on our feet. Like, that's what the Saints are doing. They were all in, man. They were all in with Breeze for the last 5 years, trying to go all in or the 5 years of Breeze. And then they perpetuated that mentality. And look at what it got you. You're the worst cap situation in the NFL. You have no quarterback. You have a GM that's a made man. You've blown draft picks on guys like Peyton Turner and Trevor Penning. You blew a 2nd-round pick on Isaiah Foskey. Like, look around, man. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's what you are. I mean, you're in a terrible situation. And so organizationally, you got to chill. And they did. They went in free agency and didn't spend a ton of money. And so they're going to reset their cap. They drafted 9 players, which gets them younger. Right now, you have 9 players on rookie deals. You didn't go crazy in free agency. So that's going to help reset your cap to where you'll actually be able to spend sensibly in free agency. The key is you got to draft well and spend on the right free agents. And of course, you got to find a quarterback. But it's just understanding, like, you're going to be bad this year. You're going to be bad this year. And like, I'm okay with that because being bad this year was a necessity in hitting the reset button financially with the draft, all that sort of stuff. And the best example I can keep giving you is what the Bengals did when they drafted Joe Burrow. They hired their coach. They were awful. They won 1 game in the first year. They drafted Burrow. In Burrow's first season, they won 4. Now, 4 was not good, but they went from 1 to 4. They quadrupled their win total. And then the next year, they won the Super Bowl. Now, they hit on Joe Burrow. I'm not saying you have Joe Burrow. I don't think you do. My point is willing to go backwards to be able to go forwards because there isn't a path. Like, the path you were on was running you into a brick wall. And you just were never going to clear that brick wall. You had to go backwards to find another route. And that's what they're doing right now. They're backtracking. to find the other route so they can go forward. All right. Let's get out of here. 7 o'clock on a Sunday night. Y'all do me a favor. There's over 300 watch. Appreciate y'all. Smash that like button. Subscribe to the channel. Always Parish Construction and Roofing. Love to help you out. If you need a roof, repairs, replacements, we do it all. Parishbuilt.com. Parishbuilt.com. Residential and commercial. Parish Built. We do soft washing too. Gutters, all that stuff. Parishbuilt.com. All right. Thanks for watching. Y'all have a great day. Peace.